Hi guys, this is my monthly motivation. Last month the topic was accepting change, and that was in relation to what we were going through with quarantine and just adapting to a new way of life. A lot has changed since then. This month's motivation is about making change. That's the topic. As you know, the discussions we are having at the moment are about racism, inequality, discrimination, police brutality, all of these things we're talking about now, and these conversations need to be had. They have always been there. They've always been a problem, and I think there may be some people who are wondering why are we talking about it so much? Why is it, going on, and why are people so upset? And I think my perception of why there's been so much silence about it is because it is a tough topic. It is a tough conversation to be had for some people. It may be a case where, people don't bother having the conversations because there's fear of what's the point? People won't understand, people won't be able to relate, and there will be no change. So what's the point of having these discussions? People may think that that's just the way it is, that's the way it's always been, when we just accept it that way. But it's not okay. We do need to be having these discussions. Obviously, the death of George Floyd has erupted the world, is shaking up the whole world, and there's been a lot of deep-rooted pain, emotions and anguish about what has happened, and that's why it was said enough is enough, and that's why we need to have these conversations. Me personally, I felt it. I felt it really heavy on my chest. And you think about experiences that you've been through. I personally have been through experiences of blatant discrimination, exclusion and inequality, and it's not okay. We've all been through it in some form, some shape or form. So the people who could really relate, those are the people who may be really feeling that pain and talking about it a lot more. So that's why. I don't really want to get into it too much. I want to focus on the positive, how we can make positive change, and this is what this month's motivation is about: making change. So how can we make change? Firstly is to listen. When it comes to this Black Lives Matter movement, it's about listening and understanding, and listening with an open mind and an open heart. There has been a lot of conflict on social media. You can see the tension that was created, people not quite understanding, and there's been arguments and debate. There's nothing wrong with a healthy debate, but there's a difference between showing empathy and understanding to being ignorant and not showing the understanding or empathy or listening, because those problems don't affect you, so you can't relate, or you put it under the carpet. And one of my favourite sayings by Maya Angelou is when we know better, we do better. So it is about listening and learning and opening our ears and opening our minds a lot more. Another one of my motivation tips and takeaway to making positive change is to take action. We all know that actions speak louder than words. So it's about, how can we contribute to making change? We can listen more, we can raise awareness, and there's some people who may not feel comfortable about sharing things on their social media platform. You don't always have to raise awareness that way. You can have conversations with people, especially young people. I'm really passionate about talking to our younger generation and talking to our young people about these problems. There's a lot that needs to be improved in the education system as well, educating our young people. They are our next generation. I've always been extremely passionate about young people. Before I was in fitness, I was in youth and community work, and I think we have a responsibility to lead them down the right path. And we like to, I'm not a parent, so I'm just talking in general. We like to kind of protect our young people, and we don't want to expose them to the harsh realities of what's going on sometimes, but it's important to have those conversations too. They need to know, because they're going to grow up into adults, and it is sometimes harsh to tell them the truth about what's going on, because we don't want to distress them. But I believe it's not what you say, it's how you say it. As long as we say it in a way that doesn't cause them distress. But we need to teach them about the history. We need to let them know about the George Floyd situations and why it's happened and why people behave in a certain way. But the positive is that, yes, these bad things do happen. That's the reality. But we can make change. How do we make it better? How do we become better people to make that positive change? So giving the young people hope that there can be positive change, and the world doesn't have to be as ugly as it can be sometimes. Lastly, my takeaway for making change is in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement, is those who do not understand what that statement means, what that campaign means, trying to understand it. I like to say Black Lives Matter too, and that's particularly for the people who don't quite understand, because there have been many responses, as you know, that people have responded to say, well, all lives matter. And when I hear the response, all lives matter, that just tells me that that person doesn't understand what Black Lives Matter actually means. We know all lives matter. We don't disregard that. But the fact is that Black people and a lot of minorities have been treated differently over years, from centuries back up until this day. As I've mentioned, I've been through my own experiences, many of my own experiences. I may talk about it one day, but then I think maybe, I'm not sure. Anyway, that's a different story. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you don't understand what Black Lives Matter means, it may not be your fault. I mean, if you have not experienced the level of discrimination and inequality that has been happening with a lot of Black lives, if you have not experienced police brutality or judgments or prejudice, then maybe you won't understand. But just have the conversations with people. If you're unsure, ask the questions. If you don't get it or don't agree with the Black Lives Matter movement and can't understand why, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions, or look it up or read about it. And as I said before, just have an open heart and an open mind on that topic. Lastly, if there's a lot of people, in saying that, there's a lot of people who have understood, and there's a lot of people who are not Black or who are not a minority, who have stood up and supported and showed compassion and showed empathy and showed love and unity. It has been beautiful to see, and that's the positive. That's what we need to take out from it, is that, yeah, wow, we are capable of coming together and uniting and making it better, and making every kind of field, every industry, every organization more equal. And it starts with the small tiny steps, the small little things that can be changed. You know, even the little comments which are prejudice or you know, unnecessary, those little things build up to big things like the George Floyd incident. So we need to nip it in the bud from the beginning. And if you're unsure on what to do, on how to make change, keep it simple. All we need to do is respect each other, show empathy, show compassion, show love, be love. I like to say be love, because being love is much more than showing love. Being love is responding with love, even to negativity, even to hate, responding back with love. You know, that saying, hate can't eradicate hate. So yes, if you're unsure on what to do, and how you can contribute to making change, specifically on the topic I'm talking about, all you need to do is be kind, be compassionate, be respectful, be fair, have conversations, have the uncomfortable conversations, ask questions, and be love. And that's it. I promised I would do just a 1-minute video for these monthly motivations, but as usual, I go on. So anyway, stay tuned for next month's motivation.